Dear Thane McCullough, Judy Biggs Garbullo, Patrician O'Connell Killen, Matthew Lambsma, Scott Snyder, Eric Baldwin, Ray Angle, we are now taking our seat at the table.
The mission statement states to protect those that are vulnerable. Where were you when me and a fellow student of color were called the N-word just 2 blocks off campus?
Where were you when the white professor decided that we can use the N-word in class because of the context that we were using it in? Where were you when a white student said it out loud twice before the only black student in the class asked him to please stop?
Where were you when the same person called me Oriental and told me my lunch smelled weird?
Where were you when the white kid sitting next to me in class asked to touch my nappy hair?
Where were you when I sat across the table from the chief editor of the Gonzaga Bulletin after he likened black people in Baltimore to terrorists? Oh, that's right. You were across the table from me, comforting him, telling me and my other comrades who had come to share our stories and our sentiments to, quote, not intimidate him, to not gang up on him.
Where were you when I shared my story on campus, only to have a white faculty member run her fingers through my hair as if she never heard a word I said?
Where were you when I introduced myself as Alan and I was asked if I wasn't sure it was Alan?
Where were you when I was walking to an office on campus and the woman working there was talking about her racist grandpa and how funny the jokes are that he makes? Why is my race a joke?
An aspect of the mission statement that spoke to me was its commitment to the poor and the vulnerable, solidarity with the poor and the vulnerable. So my question is, where were you when I was entering my first week of freshman year and I was in my dorm room and I heard the phrase in the hallway, "That's so gay"? Where were you when I felt my skin crawl and when I felt isolated, not knowing who I could talk to? Where were you when
the teacher reluctantly talked about diversity and the students decided that it was a waste of their time and therefore they should just pull up their laptops and not pay attention?
Where were you when my hard work was attributed to the color of my skin and called luck?
Where were you when the middle-aged white lady working at Starbucks in Hemmington told me I was spelling my name wrong?
I remember the first day of orientation. Gonzaga really posted this mission statement. We're developing the whole person and that we're committed to social justice. And I think back to this one time I was in one of my classes and we were talking about racism. And there's one student who turns to me and says, "I feel like the best way to get rid of racism is obviously just to ignore it." Nah. And I remember seeing the professor sit there, silent, not saying anything. Is that who we are as an institution? That's not it.
Where were you when I was asked, "No, where are you really from?"
Where were you when I was struggling in my engineering classes and I was told maybe I don't belong here?
The Gonzaga experience fosters a mature commitment to global engagement. Where were you when my first month here, my professor told me I could not go home to celebrate a Muslim holiday with my family? Where were you when I was told that I couldn't get the day off because I was not an international student?
Gonzaga University's mission statement says it fosters the dignity of a human person and is in solidarity with the poor and vulnerable. Yet, when there were students writing messages of love on this campus after a day with messages of hate, they were met with students speeding from their dorms, yelling profanity, and not feeling welcomed on this campus.
Where were you when my support system was stripped beneath my feet because she didn't feel like she belonged here at Gonzaga? Where were you when faculty of color continued to come and go, making me question whether I deserve a spot at the table because the statistics tell me I don't? Where were you when I was lost? Where were you when I needed you most? Where are you now?
You cannot change any society unless you take responsibility for it, unless you see yourself as belonging to it and responsible for changing it. Gonzaga models and expects excellence in academic and professional pursuits and intentionally develops the whole person, intellectually, spiritually, physically, emotionally, and culturally. This is not to be taken lightly. This is real. We are real. You cannot pick and choose who you develop as a whole person. You cannot pick apart our identities and make them fit be a zag. Take a seat. We are more than a demographic angrily demonstrating. It's time you honor your commitment to the dignity of the human person, social justice, diversity, intercultural competence, global engagement, and solidarity with the poor and vulnerable. Do we not count? We are a part of your number game anyways, right? Sincerely, the so-called 25%.